The 7 levels of nostalgia. Nostalgia is powerful. It can make a blurry childhood memory feel as vivid as yesterday. It's the sound of an old startup chime, a grainy YouTube clip, or a theme song that hits harder than you remember. But behind all that comfort and sentimentality lies something deeper, a strange longing for a time that may never have been as perfect as we think. These are the 7 levels of nostalgia, a descent from cozy memories to the eerie, forgotten corners of the past we can't stop missing. Level 1, the soundtrack of simplicity. Old Minecraft music. We begin at the surface, where nostalgia feels warm and familiar, like opening an old save file. And few things capture that feeling better than the original music of Minecraft. When Minecraft released in 2011, its soundtrack by composer C418, Daniel Rosenfeld, became the heartbeat of an entire generation. Tracks like Sweden, Subwoofer Lullaby, and Wet Hands played softly as players built, explored, or got lost in endless blocky landscapes. The music didn't push for attention, it existed quietly, filling the silence with calm, hopeful melodies that made the world feel alive. The beauty of it was how unpredictable it felt. There was no prompt or pattern. The songs would fade in at random moments, turning an ordinary night of mining into something strangely emotional. Players began associating each track with their own memories. The first house they built, the first time they saw rain, the first time they died and respawned. It became more than background music, it was part of the soul of the game. As years passed and Minecraft evolved with new biomes, new mobs, and even new composers, C418's early work stayed untouched. No matter how far the game advanced, those songs carried the feeling of the internet's simpler days, when gaming wasn't about updates or shaders, but the quiet joy of creativity. Level 1 represents nostalgia in its purest form, not about loss or fear, but the comfort of remembering something that made you feel safe. Just one piano note from Sweden is enough to bring back entire worlds, pixel by pixel, memory by memory. Level 2, the Golden Era. Old Chuck E. Cheese mascot. There was a time when stepping into Chuck E. Cheese felt like entering a wonderland made of flashing lights, greasy pizza, and mechanical magic. Kids didn't care about how strange the animatronics looked or how jerky their movements were. They were alive, larger than life, and performing just for them. The original Chuck E. Cheese mascot from the late 1970s to the 1990s wasn't the cheerful mouse we know today. He was a smirking, cigar-smoking rat in a bowler hat, more like a Vegas lounge performer than a friendly cartoon. Over the years, his design softened, but the mechanical charm remained. The Munch's Make Believe Band, featuring characters like Helen Henny, Mr. Munch, and Jasper T. Jowls, gave every restaurant its own little showbiz spectacle. Children would sit cross-legged on the floor, eyes wide as the animatronic band sang off-key renditions of pop songs. The faint whirring of servos, the blinking stage lights, and the smell of warm pizza created an atmosphere that felt electric. For many kids, it was their first brush with technology that seemed alive. As decades passed and technology advanced, the magic began to fade. The old mascots were replaced by digital screens, cleaner designs, and modern music, but online, something strange happened. People started missing the older, rougher versions. Footage of flickering animatronics and grainy birthday shows resurfaced on YouTube, sparking endless nostalgia. Those old robots, once normal, began to feel haunting, relics of a time when childhood wonder and discomfort coexisted perfectly. Today, the old Chuck E. Cheese animatronics stand in storage rooms or get auctioned off online, their plastic eyes frozen mid-song. But for those who grew up with them, that glowing stage light and mechanical smile still represent a golden era. One that never truly shuts off. Level 3, the Internet Sleepover. Creepypastas. And this is where the internet starts to whisper. Level 3 belongs to the story that blurred the line between game and nightmare. Ben Drowned. It began in 2010 when a user on 4chan claimed to have bought a used Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask cartridge from an old man at a yard sale. Inside was a save file named Ben. What followed was a slow descent into something that felt cursed. The player described how strange things started happening. Link's character would appear distorted, music played backward, NPCs acted wrong, sometimes staring directly at the camera. The game seemed alive, aware, and whenever the player tried to delete Ben's save file, it came back. The posts were filled with screenshots, videos, and journal entries uploaded in real time. Each update made it harder to tell what was fake and what wasn't. The creator behind it all, known as Alex Hall, crafted the story as a form of alternate reality game. It used real YouTube uploads, in-game footage, and cryptic web links to make the curse feel real. People followed obsessively, analyzing files and videos, convinced they were witnessing a digital haunting. Ben Drowned became a cultural landmark of early internet horror, a perfect storm of nostalgia and fear. It turned a beloved childhood game into something sinister, showing how even the most innocent pixels could hold secrets. Level 3 is about what happens when the internet itself becomes part of the myth, when your favorite game looks back at you, glitch by glitch, whispering, "You shouldn't have done that." Level 4, the empty hallway. The back rooms. This is where nostalgia starts to feel strange, like a dream you almost remember. It begins with a single image, a yellow hallway, carpet stained and walls buzzing under fluorescent light. No people, no doors, no windows, just a space that feels eerily familiar. That photo, posted on 4chan's X board in 2019, became the seed for one of the internet's most haunting myths, the back rooms. The story was you could no-clip out of reality, slip through the seams of the world, and wake up here, trapped in endless rooms that look like an abandoned office from the 1990s. The air hums with electricity, the walls smell like damp carpet, and somewhere in the distance, something moves. What made the back rooms so unsettling wasn't monsters or blood, it was the nostalgia. Those spaces looked exactly like the ones we grew up in. Old schools, shopping malls, waiting rooms, places meant for people, now empty. It took something comforting and turned it uncanny. Within weeks, Reddit threads, videos, and 3D recreations started to appear. Fans expanded the myth into eerie levels, each one stranger than the last. Some imagined deserted pools, others endless stairwells, flickering hotel corridors, or playgrounds trapped in perpetual sunset. In 2022, a YouTuber named Kane Parsons turned the back rooms into a viral short film, giving it new life and a face of fear that millions instantly recognized. Level 4 of nostalgia isn't about the things we loved, it's about the spaces that held them. The hallways we ran through, the corners of childhood we forgot. The back rooms is that feeling made real. The emptiness between memories, stretched into infinity, and somehow, it feels like we've all been there before. Level 5, the Forgotten Worlds. Club Penguin's shutdown. This is where nostalgia starts to ache a little. In March 2017, millions of players gathered inside one of the most beloved online worlds of the 2000s, Club Penguin, for the very last time. After 12 years of snowball fights, pizza deliveries, and igloo parties, Disney announced the game's closure to make way for its mobile successor, Club Penguin Island. But for players who grew up waddling through that frozen world, it wasn't just another update. It felt like the end of childhood itself. On March 29, 2017, the servers began to dim one by one. Thousands of penguins crowded into the town, the plaza, and the iceberg, chatting, dancing, and typing "waddle on" in unison. YouTube and Twitch live streams captured the moment, showing virtual fireworks and emotional goodbyes as the clock ticked toward midnight. When the final message, "The connection has been lost," appeared on screen, it wasn't just the end of a game, it was the last heartbeat of an entire digital generation. Club Penguin had always been more than a kid's MMO. It was a social hub where players learned to talk online, explore, and create. The moderators, minigames, and pixelated snowball fights built friendships that lasted years, sometimes even into real life. For many, logging off that night felt like leaving behind a place where they'd grown up. After its shutdown, fan recreations like Club Penguin Rewritten tried to keep the magic alive, attracting millions of nostalgia players until legal takedowns ended those too, but no remake ever felt the same. This is about the digital worlds that disappear, not because they failed, but because time moved on. It's a reminder that even pixels can hold memories, and sometimes saying goodbye happens on a loading screen. Level 6, the false memory, the Bernstein Bears Mandela effect. We're deep enough now that nostalgia starts to glitch. This is the level where people remember the same thing, but somehow it never happened. The most famous example, the Bernstein Bears. For decades, fans swore the beloved children's book series was spelled Bernstein Bears with an E. It wasn't just a few people misremembering. Millions insisted they'd seen it that way on the covers growing up, from old classroom libraries to VHS tapes. But when they went back and checked, every single one said Bernstein with an A. No edits, no rebranding, no proof of the E version ever existing. That shared disbelief became one of the internet's strangest psychological puzzles, and one of the first viral cases of what we now call the Mandela effect. The term came from people remembering Nelson Mandela dying in prison during the 1980s, even though he lived until 2013. Online communities began to catalog similar false memories, from the Monopoly Man's missing monocle to Pikachu's tail supposedly having a black tip. But the Bernstein Bears hit harder than most. It wasn't just a logo or a movie quote, it was tied to childhood. To bedtime stories and kindergarten bookshelves, the confusion felt personal. Some joked about alternate timelines, others dug through vintage photos and eBay listings trying to find a single piece of evidence that the Bernstein version existed. None ever did. Psychologists explained it as a case of collective misremembering, the human brain smoothing out unfamiliar details to fit patterns it expects. Stein sounds more natural than Stain, and that small shift echoed across millions of minds. Level 6 shows that nostalgia isn't always trustworthy. Memory can rewrite itself, and sometimes the past we think we remember only ever existed in our heads. Level 7, the Lost Dream. The mystery of every copy of Mario 64 is personalized. You've reached the deepest level, where nostalgia stops being comforting and starts feeling haunted. And no story captures that feeling quite like every copy of Mario 64 is personalized. The theory began around 2020 on internet forums and YouTube, where fans started speculating that every copy of Super Mario 64, the 1996 Nintendo classic, was somehow different for each player. According to the myth, the game subtly changed itself, enemies behaving oddly, rooms shifting in layout, Mario staring directly at the player through the screen. It wasn't a mod or a glitch, it was as if the cartridge remembered you. Videos started appearing online that proved the theory. Some showed distorted footage of Mario wandering through endless empty halls in Peach's castle. Others featured eerie versions of familiar levels, warped music, or messages that seemed to address the player directly. It blurred the line between nostalgia and nightmare, something so beloved reimagined as unsettling and unknowable. Of course, none of it was true. The game isn't actually personalized. The videos were part of a larger creative movement known as analog horror and haunted gaming, communities that remix childhood memories into eerie, dreamlike experiences. But what made this one special was how deeply it resonated. Everyone who grew up with Mario 64 knew that sense of quiet mystery, the endless castle halls, the muffled footsteps, the places you were sure existed but could never find again. Level 7 is nostalgia's breaking point. It's where comfort turns uncanny, and the things that once made you happy start to feel like echoes of something you've lost. Every copy of Mario 64 is personalized is a reflection of what happens when memory and emotion merge into something too deep to explain.